Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And thank you so much for being here and showing up. We're getting close to another Mo'adim L'Simcha, a beautiful time for gathering. Pesach is coming. And you may be really nervous, Cantor Leslie, because that means we got to start cleaning the house, and there's a lot of work to do. So, we're going to get ready for that. But for now, let's begin with a brief summary of today's Parsha. As you recall, last week's Parsha, Tzav, told of the 7 days of inauguration, during which the sanctuary was consecrated and Aaron and his sons were trained for the priesthood. This week's Parsha, Shemini, meaning 8th, is found in Leviticus 9:1. On the 8th day, following the 7th day of the inauguration, Aaron and his sons begin to officiate as Kohanim, as priests. A fire issues forth from God to consume the offerings on the altar, and the divine presence comes to dwell in the sanctuary, and all seems well. Then, Aaron's 2 elder sons, Nadav and Avihu, offer a strange fire to God, which he commanded them not. A little bit of spontaneity, but unfortunately, this does not end well, and they die before God. Aaron is silent in the face of this tragedy. Moses and Aaron subsequently disagree on an important point of law and offerings, but Moses concedes to Aaron, and Aaron is in the right. Further in the Parsha, God commands the kosher laws that we saw today, identifying the animal species permissible and forbidden for consumption, forbidden, shaketz. Don't know if you caught that word. Land animals may be eaten only if they have split hooves and chew their cud. Fish may have fins and scales. A list of non-kosher birds is given, and a list of kosher insects, 4 types of locusts. This is also part of the types of laws that we don't always understand the reasoning behind it. And some of the laws we are starting to really understand in modern days as science progresses, and we understand why we wash our hands. We didn't always get that. But these laws are given for a reason. Also in Shemini are some of the laws of ritual purity, including the purifying power of the mikveh, a pool of water meeting specified qualifications, and the wellspring. And thus, the people of Israel are enjoined to differentiate between impure and pure, permitted and forbidden. As we have found in many parshiot, seemingly unrelated incidents may actually have something in common. Nothing is random, and I said that last time I gave a Dvar Torah. So, how do these events all connect to the concept of differentiating between pure and impure, kodesh lechol, forbidden, permitted? First, we can consider the tragic incident leading to the death of Aaron and his sons. Then we will look at the laws pertaining to kosher animals fit for consumption. And finally, we're going to look at the laws of ritual purity. None of these things seem connected yet. Let's have a closer look at the segments. In the first portion of today's Parsha, having completed the building of the tabernacle and set the foundation for divinely ordained sacrifices, the Israelites are ready to offer the first sacrifice, celebrating the inauguration of Israel's priesthood. The celebration, however, as I mentioned, is tragically interrupted by the death of Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu. What makes their ending even more shocking is that their downfall comes while they are performing their priestly duties. What did Nadav and Avihu do wrong? Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks states that the simplest explanation is that they offered a strange fire that was not commanded. Why should they have done such a thing? And why is it such a serious error? Rabbi Sacks explains that what makes most sense psychologically is that they were carried away by the mood of the moment. They acted in a kind of ecstasy. They were caught up by the sheer excitement of the inauguration of the first collective house of worship in the history of Abraham's children. Their behavior was spontaneous. They wanted to do something extra, uncommanded, to express their religious fervor. Rabbi Sachs explains that the role of the priest is very important to maintain stability. The Kohanim, the priests, have the key function of the guardians of order. Spontaneous behavior is completely in contradiction to the job of maintaining boundaries between sacred and secular, pure and impure. The domain of the priest was that of holiness. The vocation was to remind the people that there are limits. There is an order to the universe that must be respected. Spontaneity has no place in the life of the priest in the service of the sanctuary. This is very different from the last of our Torah I gave, where I talked about Moses, who spontaneously broke the tablets of the commandments. It's different when King David took his clothes off as they were bringing the Torah up to Jerusalem. They were not entrusted with order and holiness. They were not punished for these acts, yet these two sons of Aaron were killed. This is what Nadav and Avihu failed to honor. They had a very specific role. It might seem like a minor transgression, but it was in fact a negation of everything the tabernacle and the priesthood stood for. So there's the first segment. So how do the concepts of kosher animals and ritual purity connect to this first tragic incident? These two concepts also illustrate the importance of having boundaries between the holy and the profane. Jewish law recognizes human drive to procreate, to consume meat, to explore and expand. Judaism doesn't prohibit these drives. It puts them into a framework, an order, so that the world doesn't spin out of control, so that as individuals, we don't spin out of control. So these basic human drives take on a holy nature. You know, we talk about kodesh lechol. When undertaken in a framework, when elevated through positive intention and awareness. Kashrut is about creating an order and having an awareness about what we put into our bodies. You may note that the permitted animal species are all herbivore, peaceful creatures. We are all to aspire to these characteristics of gentleness and peacefulness despite our lust for meat. The way we care for and slaughter our meat is also to raise awareness about fair treatment of animals. This may seem strange, but consider that we are not allowed to slaughter a calf in front of its mother or cook its meat in its mother's milk. So we have to have a consciousness about cruelty and feelings of animals. And also, only perfectly healthy animals may be used for kosher slaughter, which would be an incentive to treat animals with care in its lifetime. The recent bill to prohibit kosher meat slaughter in Canada would benefit from a study of the intention of our tradition. And what about the laws of sexual purity? How do they relate to creating boundaries and a sense of order? We should note that Judaism does not prohibit sexual relations. Not only does Judaism believe that sexuality is vital to the continuity of humankind, it also teaches that within a loving, respectful relationship, sexuality is meant to bring a couple closer to each other and to God. The laws of ritual purity, create an order in a relationship with periods of time in the monthly cycle when the couple come together in a physical bond, and other times where the relationship is spiritual and emotional, allowing for a deeper development of the friendship and intellectual connection. The Parsha reminds us that which was the role of the Kohen. It reminds us that there is relevance in continuing with Jewish law, halakha. Society needs expressions of limits, rules, laws, distinctions. We need laws to protect us from the abuse of overconsumption of all kinds, from overuse of fossil fuel to meat to deforestation, overplanting, fishing. Humankind was given the role of partner in creation and protector of our planet in order to exercise this role, we must each do the personal training exercises to bring order into our lives and influence how we consume and how we behave so that our society and our planet are sustainable for future generations. And with that, I wish you a good Shabbos